Hey, welcome to the Science of Parenting podcast, where we connect you with research based information that fits your family. We'll talk about the realities of being a parent and how research can guide our parenting decisions. I'm Mackenzie Johnson, parent of two littles with their own quirks, and I'm a parenting educator.
And I'm Lori Haynes, parent of three in three different life stages. I have one that's launched, one is in college, and one is in high school. And I'm a parenting educator as well. So today we are talking about reconnecting and repairing after we frankly have lost it as a parent.
Yep.
Yeah, we've all lost it as a parent. And so I think that today will really help us understand that we can go back and repair and reconnect, even when the reality of losing it in parenting happens.
Mm-hmm. And I can admit it's with a preschooler and an infant in my house. And I've talked on previous episodes about how I get overstimulated. Sometimes that puts me over the edge. Like the emotion, I'm an intense person. I've talked about that too. And the emotion just sometimes gets the best of me. And so I need to have a plan. I need to have a way because I know it's inevitable. I need to have a way to reconnect after I go down the path I don't mean to.
And that's
So.
total reality. The reality is we as parents are going to have intense moments and we're going to need to learn how to reconnect and repair. And I think that first research bullet that you are about to share will help us think about how parents feel about their own behaviors.
It's a good one, and let's just go. So, the first one is really about how we feel about our own parenting behaviors and decisions. So, 0 to 3 National Parent Survey revealed that 40% of parents reported that they wished they could do a better job of not yelling or raising their voice so quickly with their children. Heyo, hello, that's me. Also, of parents who report that they use harsh discipline with their children frequently, 77% shared that they don't think it's one of the most effective methods of discipline. So basically, a lot of parents are choosing discipline methods that they don't think really work in the heat of the moment. And right, like you said, the reality. And hey, reality here at my house. So it's going to happen. And so reality comes like, how does it come back down to? What are we going to do when it happens? What are we going to do when my emotions get the best of me? I need to have a plan.
And I think that National Parent Survey just really points out the reality of 77% of parents actually, don't think that the harsh discipline that they used worked. So if 77% think that, then gosh, yeah, we've got more research to look at.
Yeah, 77% who do use it frequently, right? So it's not just 77% of parents. 77% of parents who use harsh discipline regularly aren't thinking it's working, which I can get, right? In the heat of that moment, in the intensity. And actually, I have an example that was pretty recent. So we were making lunch. It was on a weekend. I was making lunch, and we had corn, and it was hot. And I'd put some of the lunch stuff on the table, and then I was back in the kitchen. And I've told you guys on the podcast that mealtime is a very stimulating time for me. I'm trying to do a lot of things. I'm multitasking. I'm feeding my infant. We're getting stuff ready. My co-partner or my co-parent is, trying to help do stuff and sometimes talking with me, like people do at mealtime. And so I'm a little overstimulated trying to get everything done here. And corn is on the table. Bring my daughter some milk. My son is in the high chair. Go back into the kitchen to get something. And I come back in to the dining room, and my daughter had poured her milk in her corn. And I was like, why? Like, why did I just poured that? And I was stressed, and I was overstimulated from the talking and getting things ready and multitasking. And I was like, why did you do that? And I picked her up and I said, just sit in timeout. And I put her on the stairs, which in our house is, which is where we do that. And usually we talk about it more in terms of like taking a break to make some decisions or have space from each other. And I put her in timeout and I walked away. She starts bawling. And I'm like getting stuff ready. I'm like, oh, why did you? And I'm like dumping the milk in the sink. And I like take a second and I take that breath. And I realized in the heat of that moment, that was way more about me than it was about her dumping her milk in her corn. Right? That was way more about me. And that one
Reality.
just happened, like, in the last few
Reality.
days. Yeah, and so I did have to repair, reconnect because that was me. But I'm gonna
Mhm.
save what we did and how we walked through that for a little bit later, but it was I have to own that my emotions get the best of me sometimes, and so I have to own up to that.
Well, and I think that's why we wanted to land here today, is just understanding that as adults, this reality of we lose it sometimes and we have to figure out how to own it and then repair it. I have another resource from 0 to 3 here telling us that sometimes that disconnect that we have when it comes to our behaviors and what our child is doing is actually really more about the realistic ability that our child may not actually have self control mastery yet,
Mhm,
and the kind of that expectation gap of
mhm.
our expectation and their real ability to self control are different and too far apart. And
Yeah.
that can cause a lot of frustration for us as adults and the child as well. So we have these high expectations. And really, if we go back to what we talked about last week, brain development, they don't have the brain development to master that self control. And so it's that expectation gap that's causing the frustration and entering into our reality.
Absolutely, and that I think that reality for me, I sometimes feel like, I'm fortunate that we have some of that head knowledge and background, in education as parents that, I maybe know that my 3-year-old, what her abilities are or but sometimes that's head knowledge. Right? Like,
Exactly.
sometimes like, "Oh, yeah, if someone were to ask me, I could tell you." In the heat of the moment, do I
And
remember? Not
as
every
we were
time.
Yeah, not every time. And as we were talking through this, the example that I was going to share had to do with I had asked my preschooler, she was maybe 3 at the time. We actually didn't even have official diagnosis for her disability at the time, so she
Mm,
was 3, and I asked her to clean her room, and at that time, I was just feeling frustrated, out of control. The room, of course, was a disaster area,
mm,
and so I lost my cool, and I went in and I was determined I was going to put things in the right place. And I was sputtering and muttering about how this was here and this didn't belong here. And the Barbies weren't with the Barbies and the stuffed animals. What is the stuffed animal doing in the dishes? And, you know, my expectation, about her ability to logically sequence the toys where I thought they belonged and, coordinate them in the right buckets was just not something that where she was at, let alone the fact that, yes, she was 3 and that mastery of those things is not there, but she also has a disability. So my
yeah.
expectation gap at that point in time when I was losing my cool was huge. And I didn't need to be muttering about doesn't belong here and I can't believe you put that here. And how would you expect that the spoons, they don't go in the littlest pets things. It just I look back, I literally still remember that 18 years later. So that was a time I totally remember and lost it and am not proud of it.
And I think having the term, even just having the words expectation gap, understanding that sometimes what I expect of my child is not realistic for them, in a way that's kind of empowering to me. Like, it gives me a specific thing to think about. Is what I'm expecting right now realistic?
Mhm.
You know? Yes, my child could get themselves dressed independently yesterday. Is it realistic they're gonna get right every day? You know?
Mm.
And that expectation gap, just having those words in the back of my mind feels like, okay, that's a way for me to check in. That's a way for me to check in on what I'm asking here.
I love that check in. So now
Mhm.
that we know what and why, so let's take a look at how we can avoid those situations.
Yeah,
So, according to Dr. Dan Siegel, a clinical psychologist who studies the brain, my favorite,
your fave.
during stressful parenting moments, we may lose control, or have you heard this? Flip our lid
Yep.
and let our emotions control our reactions. So, Dr. Siegel suggests mindful parenting as an approach. And what he suggests is that mindful parenting means you bring to your conscious attention what's happening. So, what's happening? I'm bringing that forward. What's happening instead of getting kind of hijacked by all these emotions? the red between our eyes and the red creeping up our neck. So bring to that conscious attention what's happening. So 3 specific tips. Notice our own feelings when we're in conflict with our child. Ooh, here's something that might reverberate back to stop, breathe, talk. The second one is learn to pause before responding in anger and listen carefully to the child's viewpoint, even if you disagree with it.
Yes, you talked about that in a previous episode. We're talking about the car seat. We're talking about when your kid doesn't want to be in the car seat. We're still holding the expectation, but you gave a great example in there of, you know what? I am also on team. This is a bummer. You have to be in your car seat, and you have to be in your car seat, right? So even if you disagree or, you know, whatever they're saying, you thought this was happening. Acknowledging that that's what they think. That's so powerful. And I think you're right. Those 3 steps of knowing your own feelings, learning to pause, and listening to your child, even if you disagree. You're right. That is like ringing stop, breathe, talk in my ears.
Somehow it all comes back to that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the takeaway, right? Definitely having a plan for how to manage our anger is an important strategy. What's our plan for managing our anger when we lose it?
So yeah, there's kind of 2 sides of it, right? There's, do I have a plan in place beforehand? So that's part of that reconnection and repairing in the future. And then what do I do after I did it? And in our live session on Stop Breathe Talk, somebody asked the question, so what happens, you know, that Stop Breathe Talk thing, what happens if you go straight to talk? So what happens? The emotions ran. I didn't take that second to pause, take a breath, stop, you know, recognize what I was feeling. And I went straight into what? And I said something or did something or, you know, talk about putting my daughter on the steps because I was mad about the milk and the corn. What do I do now?
Well, we have the opportunity every day, every minute, every moment to reconnect and repair every day. And that sometimes means that as adults, we have to put our egos aside. And instead of standing our ground and just letting what happened happen because we're the adults and it happened, we sometimes have to be able to reconnect and repair and go back. And I love this for communication pieces that we're going to share next. So how about this? I'll share the piece and you give an example.
Yes. So this one's actually from a training that we offer, a face-to-face training that we offer by Leslie Aguilar. And I love this 4 A's of communication recovery. I love this so much. I use it. It's a good one.
All right. So our first A is accept feedback from the person. P.S. Even if it's a little person.
Yeah.
Accept feedback from the person.
Mm-hmm.
How would you do that?
So I can say in my case, with the corn and the milk, me accepting my daughter's feedback was saying, like, I hurt your feelings, or you were surprised, or you were sad that I reacted this way. And so it was accepting, you know, her experience of what happened.
Excellent. The second A is acknowledge what happened, but acknowledge both your intent as well as the impact. Ooh, ouch. Yeah. Acknowledge. So you've accepted feedback, right? And now you have to acknowledge, the intent and the impact.
So what that sounded like with our interaction here, it was me explaining my intent, right? Like I was trying to get lunch on the table. I was frustrated. And the impact was that I raised my voice and I overreacted. And so it was owning, you know, why, you know, not in an excuse kind of way, but I was feeling frustrated. I was multitasking. I was trying to get stuff done. I was feeling stressed. And this is what I did, right? Like this is what I did because I felt that way. That was the impact of what happened.
Excellent. So the third A is apologize. And honestly, that's really the most important step. And it's easiest if you apologize immediately because your sincerity will help kind of clear that air and help the other person feel more comfortable. So accepting, acknowledging, and apologizing.
Yeah. So this weekend there was kind of a step in between, or with that apologizing and acknowledging. I asked my daughter, why did you pour your milk in your corn? Like why'd you do that? Because I didn't take the time to ask when it
Mhm.
happened. And this was just a few minutes after, and she goes, Mom, my corn was hot and my milk was cold,
Mm.
and my milk, uh, I wanted to be able to eat my corn like you asked. And I was like, I'm sorry. But I did. I was like, oh, now I understand what you were doing. So
Mhm.
accepting, yeah, we don't usually pour our milk in our corn to cool it down. But I did it, accepting that's what she was doing. And then like, okay, so you were pouring your milk in your corn to help cool it down. I'm sorry I yelled. Like, I'm
Mhm.
sorry that I overreacted and that I put you in timeout without listening to you, which is hard. Like,
Mm.
that is a hard, and
So
especially sometimes
hard.
in parenting, a lot of people have this fear of the power dynamic of like, I'm the adult, I need to be in charge.
Mhm.
And if I apologize, I'm giving up my power. But you're building your relationship. Like, it's not always about the power, it's about reconnecting, especially owning, when things haven't gone the way we hoped or would intend to do. So,
And think about the modeling you're doing. You're modeling how to apologize.
mhm,
This isn't the go hug your brother kind of apology.
yeah.
No, this is like a real life apology that they can learn from, and then they can go out and practice when they feel frustrated and they have to apologize. And then it feels real. It's that feel
Mhm.
of I really am sorry. And I had the chance to see my parent do that. And I know how I felt after my parent apologized to me. The person that I hurt, I really want them to feel that same way.
Mhm.
So excellent stuff. Okay, so accept feedback, acknowledge what happened, apologize. And the fourth A is adjust. So, in other words, try not to repeat the same offense in the future. Parenting is real, right? So try to think about and you can even say it out loud. You can even say, next time I will try to not, or next time I will try to X.
Mhm.
What did you do this weekend?
So it was, after I said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have yelled or I shouldn't have put you in timeout, without talking to you or understanding what happened. Um, I said, next time I need to take a breath, right?
Mm.
Next time when I feel overwhelmed and stressed, I need to take a breath. And I think you're so right that we try, right? We want to do better. We don't want to yell at our kids. We want to be calmer and we want to listen to them and help them develop these social emotional skills. It's our intent. And so making that effort to acknowledge you didn't get it right this time and trying to do better, right?
Mm.
Practice, not perfection.
Practice,
Yeah.
not perfection. And you said it best, I think, when you said parenting is about the overall relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This one interaction, are we building or are we kind of, moving backwards? And I think even when we don't get it right and we might feel like we're moving backwards, the repairing and reconnecting, like taking that time, like we said, accept, acknowledge, apologize, adjust, that can be a way to move forward, instead of having it exclusively move back. And
Mm.
I want to say, I'm using this example of recently, recent one, but there's a lot of times when I don't get this right. I don't want anyone to think that I'm sharing this example because I get it right all the time. I obviously do not. And so this was just an example that was recent as we were putting together this podcast, where I had just used these steps. So they're good ones.
They're definitely good ones. And I think that as children get older and have more words to maybe argue back with you or talk back with you or, those types of conversations, yes, accept, acknowledge, apologize, and adjust. I mean, honestly, you can sit down with them and say, hey, here's what we're going to do. Our first step is called accept. Our
Yeah.
second step is called acknowledge. I
Mhm.
mean, teaching them and modeling this to older children is absolutely one of the best ways to work through those relationship issues. Just,
Mhm.
being brutally honest about how, as a parent, I'm going to mess up sometimes. And sometimes as a kid, you're going to mess up, but this is how we move forward.
Absolutely. So I think that kind of moves us into, we usually have a little section here called Your Reality. And so talking about, so we learned about, as parents, we sometimes do things we wish we didn't, or, our emotions get ahead of us. sometimes that's related to an expectation gap that we have of our kids. We talked about using our brain, understanding that brain a little bit better to have those steps to kind of, what's the word I want? Anticipate when that might get ahead of us. So we have a plan, stop, talk. And what do we do when we didn't, we got a little too far down the path and now we need to kind of recover and repair. So as you think about your own parenting and your own practice with your kids, right? We talk about that it's not about perfection. We're not going to get it right, but having that plan. So take a minute, maybe take it right now, pause the podcast, but take a minute to think about when, if there's something that happened recently or when that tends to happen, and think about what your plan is going to be if things get ahead of you. How are you going to repair? How are you going to remember those 4 A's of communication recovery? But taking that time, because it is an opportunity to own up to what's going on. And like Lori said, to model it. So I feel like this is a hard topic because it's kind of heavy. One, it's hard to acknowledge, but it's also like, this weighs on my heart. Like, it weighs on my heart when I think back on that moment of like, man, I lost it. And it was not about you. It was about me.
It was definitely about me, the adult. Definitely.
Yeah. That's kind of heavy. So I just appreciate the opportunity to speak honestly, without judgment, and to, make a plan for what we can do when this does happen.
Make a plan.
So,
you want to bring in Kenzie?
Let's do it.
All right.
Lighten the air a little in here, Kenz.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is that not your question?
Great.
Actually relates perfectly to what you were just talking about, honestly. Okay. So we've gotten to this point where we, maybe we've learned how to go through this process, these 4 steps: accept, acknowledge, apologize, adjust. But as we were talking through this episode and talking through, back in the past, I blah, 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 and I still regret that, or I still think about that. And so my question is, how can we forgive ourselves after we've done, used that harsh punishment? We've erupted in a moment and we regret it. Even if we've accepted, acknowledged, apologized, adjust, and we're still like, man, I still did it though. How can we forgive ourselves or look to move forward in that?
Oh gosh, this is where we need everyone to hear Barb Dunn Swanson, our writer's words, because when we were working through this, she shared just some superb words about me needing to forgive myself. And just sometimes we just need to be open to accepting gratefulness and grace, and giving ourselves grace, but being open to give ourselves that grace. And she was just so clear and so eloquent in how she said it that I immediately felt more confident and comfortable with what I was doing. And I thought, oh gosh, if our listeners could just hear Barb talk about this. But that's what she talked about. We have to give ourselves grace. We don't have all the answers. We don't have all the right tools for every single situation, every single time. And then add in our emotions. Whew. Yeah.
Yep.
Lots of grace. Lots of grace.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah. And I would say, I think the thing that sometimes, I do, like I said, it weighs heavy on my heart. These moments do. But I think acknowledging, going through those 4 A's of communication recovery, but that intentional, recognizing that I am being intentional about how I adjust in the future, and that does help me, like, okay, I didn't get it right. Like, I didn't get it right that time. But knowing that I have a plan, and that my overall relationship with my child, right? This is one moment in the midst of a lot. And so that's a tough question, Kenz, but I do think, giving yourself that grace and acknowledging, right? Adjusting in the future is one thing that you're already doing. So, yeah.
The fact that you're listening to the podcast right now says to me that you're adjusting. You're learning, you're taking in information, you want to be here. And so if all you hear today is that we want you to be open and acknowledge your own grace for your parenting reality, please do that.
Oh, wonderful.
So good.
Wonderful.
You're so good.
All right.
All
I
right.
guess that's it. That was a tough question. That might be the toughest one you've
Yeah.
given us, but I feel
I
like
agree.
we're okay. So
I did have to stop, breathe, talk in our stop, breathe, talk space here. Like, okay,
But
let
it
me
was
take that breath and decide what to say.
something as you were talking that I was going, okay, so there's the things, but I'm still feeling this way. So then
Mhm.
what?
Yeah,
That was just what was on my heart. So thanks.
yeah. It's a deep one, but I think it's
Oof.
so important. I think
Oof.
this is, as we think about kids melting down and how we use self control, and tips for gaining our kids' cooperation, all these things we've been talking about in this first season. It's important to touch on this one too, even if it's heavy.
So she gave us a tough question, but I think we conquered it.
Yeah, I think we did it.
I think we did it. So we've been talking about reconnecting, about repairing, and the 4 A's of acknowledging, accepting, apologizing, and adjusting. I said them out of order there. Accepting, acknowledging, apologizing, and adjusting. And then, gosh, we added in our own fifth, but it's not an A.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a G. Grace. Give yourself
Yeah.
grace.
Absolutely. So I think that's kind of it. I think we covered it, like walking through a lot, kind of heavy, but it's important to touch on. So yeah. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today at the Science of Parenting podcast. Remember to subscribe to our audio podcast on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Watch the show on video each week or listen on podcast. And then once a month, join us on our Facebook Live. We take comments and questions. We've had some fun, definitely taking live comments and questions.
Yes.
It wasn't as scary as I thought.
Yeah. So come along with us as we tackle the ins and outs, the ups and downs, and the research and reality on the science of parenting.
The Science of Parenting is a research-based education program hosted by Lori Haynes and Mackenzie Johnson, produced by Mackenzie DeYoung with research and writing by Barbara Dunn Swanson. Send in questions and comments to parenting@iastate.edu and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. This program is brought to you by Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or accommodation inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.